Today we discover a story where a quiet life is shattered by an extraordinary secret. Samuel Washington, a humble hospital worker, loses his beloved wife Lorraine, only to find she's left behind not just memories, but a hidden fortune meant to change the world. Shock turns to courage as Samuel faces elite families, social prejudice, and the pressures surrounding his son's high-stakes wedding. In a breathtaking moment, dignity triumphs over wealth, reshaping relationships and forging an unforgettable legacy. Lorraine's fortune becomes a force for good, sparking a foundation that lifts children and unites communities. Grief gives way to hope, as ordinary routines transform into lifelong impact, and one small family's love ripples through an entire city. Subscribe and hit like. Our powerful stories add years to your life. Join our Story Lovers Club and let us know in the comments, where are you listening from? Have you ever wondered what drives a powerful man to risk everything for a simple act of kindness, and how a single decision can unravel the very tapestry of his life? Imagine a world where dignity is traded for convenience, and love is tested by the weight of pride. This is the hauntingly beautiful tale of Chief Ebenezer Okorafor, a man whose choice to divorce his celebrated wife and marry his humble maid would set tongues wagging from Lagos to distant villages. Was it insanity or liberation? Betrayal or redemption? Tonight we journey into the heart of courage, loss, and the quiet heroism found in overlooked souls. But before we begin, take a moment to subscribe and like, because stories like this aren't just entertainment. They are lessons in empathy, strength, and the relentless pursuit of peace. Picture the dawn breaking over the opulent skyline of Banana Island, its waters sparkling with promise. Chief Ebenezer, a figure who has sculpted his life from hardship into triumph, surveys his domain from his stately balcony, a steaming cup between his palms, warming not just his hands, but the memory of battles fought. He wears mastery with an unspoken elegance, dressed in white, unadorned by the gold and gems those around him fetishize. Yet every gesture whispers of strength. 55 years have shaped him from the dust-swept alleys of Nsaka, where hunger rode on the wind, to the marble halls of his mansion on the island's most coveted soil. Yet the gulf between who he was and who he pretends to be feels wider than ever. For all his success and the accolades of real estate, peace continues to elude him, a shifting shade in the joyless corridors of his own home. And at the center of the storm stands Felicia, his wife, encased in silk and perfume, gliding across the floor with the regality honed by years of attention and privilege. Their exchanges reveal a snapshot of a marriage frayed by expectation. She enters with icy distance, rejecting his invitation to breakfast, not out of dislike for food, but ridicule for the notion of cooking itself. Years ago, the kitchen was their playground, laughter echoing as they invented recipes and futures. Now, Felicia scoffs at the memory, dismissing involvement with a sneer. A wife, not a servant, she asserts, her nails as sharp as her words. Ebenezer reaches, hoping shared history might soften her, but his longing meets mockery. Money buys care, she hurls, prioritizing hired help over the small acts of love that nourish them. To her, humility is a relic. Village women sweat in kitchens, not queens. The air thickens with disappointment as he quietly acquiesces to her demands, though his spirit grows restless. Felicia, blinded by her own reflection, mistakes his compliance for weakness. Yet beneath, a battle brews, one fateful choice on the horizon, set to upend everything they once knew. As the sun retreats beyond the estate walls, Chief Ebenezer finds himself reckoning not with his fortune, but with the ghost of his mother's wisdom echoing in a silent study. A marriage without respect will eat your peace like termites eat wood. The image of Felicia, so changed from the woman he first loved, gnaws at him. Deeper than any business loss. She is dazzling, demanding, certain of her privilege, a far cry from the partner he once knew. Yet, rather than confrontation, Chief falls into reflection, haunted by the notion that perhaps the richest home is not filled with gold, but gentleness. Unbeknownst to him, it is this restless spirit that will soon invite transformation, the arrival of someone who would give a new meaning to the word home. 2 weeks later, on a blisteringly hot morning with the city shrunk under the Lego sun, the mansion's gates open quietly for Amara Wakolo. She arrives carrying nothing but a threadbare Ghana must-go bag and the invisible weight of hopes, fears, and a mother's prayers. Amara is young, only 22, but her eyes tell stories, far older, etched with sacrifice. Her journey from a forgotten village in Enugu has been a crucible. Her father, a palm wine tapper hunched by hardship. Her mother, Mama Nena, consigned to a sickbed with only local herbs for comfort. Every mile, every naira earned is survival, medicine, maybe a miracle, all resting on Amara's slender shoulders. Inside, the mansion's chill bites at her skin, marble and glass gleaming with a foreign perfection. Chief greets her not as a master, but as a weary soul hoping for respite, his gaze gentle. Felicia sits draped in luxury, wielding interrogation as power. Amara is tested. Can she polish marble, iron silk, keep silent and invisible? Her answers are humble, her posture careful, even as Felicia's disdain blooms coldly. "This is not your village," she warns. While Chief frowns, he says nothing, watching as Amara is ushered into the heart of the kitchen where her revolution will begin. Far from feeling out of place, Amara moves with purposeful grace. She scrubs, she organizes, she cooks, a pot of Aussie soup blushing through the halls, pounded yam soft as memory. Her touch transforms every surface, and whispers among the staff grow. She is like fire, fast yet meticulous. Chief tastes lunch and finds perfection. Felicia finds fault, declaring the food too salty. The rhythm of the house changes, gentle as dawn, with Amara rising by first light, working silently, greeting Chief with kindness, longing only to restore her mother's health. But for Felicia, kindness from the help is a liability. "Must you chat with her? Like she's your friend?" she snaps, worried her husband might be spoiling the staff. As days pass, contrast deepens, the mansion echoing with Amara's diligence and Felicia's dissatisfaction. Where Felicia has abundance but no gratitude, Amara embraces each task with purpose, as though the home belonged to her. Little does Chief Ebenezer know, this unassuming village girl is quietly tilting the axis of his universe, her presence subtly healing what pride has broken. The first fissures in trust reveal themselves not through scandal or betrayal, but through Felicia's razor-sharp tongue. "Amara," she barks one morning, "where is my ginger tea? I said boiling, not warm." Amara moves quickly, guilt painting her cheeks as she tries to placate Felicia, who rebuffs even the smallest explanations. Any deviation, any delay brings cold rebuke. "Village is written on your face," Felicia sneers, perpetually unsatisfied. Chief, watching these interactions, grows increasingly disturbed by his wife's relentless cruelty, intervening when he can. Amara has learned the language of survival, silence, humility, never meeting eyes unless invited. 2 months pass. Amara scrubs, polishes, and serves with devotion, but Felicia remains implacable. Mornings begin before dawn. Prayers for her mother whispered in the servants' quarters follow her into the kitchen, where each meal is carefully prepared. Steam and spice waft from breakfast, and Chief's tea is as ordered every day. Even then, Felicia's entrance brings a hurricane. Criticisms about the smallest crease on her dress, the faintest invisible line, accusations that Amara's standards are village low. The staff sense the atmosphere, drifting quietly, seeking shelter in tasks meant to avoid Felicia's wrath. Chief, attempting calm, watches Felicia escalate minor faults into storms, her gaze so cold that Amara can only retreat further into humility. Lunch becomes battleground. Felicia declares the native soup too oily, while Chief praises Amara's skill. Felicia's retort is cloaked in innuendo, suggesting favoritism, her words laced with suspicion. "Is the soup sweeter because she smiles at you?" she asks, sowing discomfort in the air. The days become a labyrinth of petty punishment and subtle humiliation. Alicia's demands grow more inventive. The scarf she does not wear must be fetched from the top floor. A leaf discovered on a freshly mopped floor warrants another hour of cleaning, and the dinner plates must be re-washed thrice, for Felicia claims she smelled soap. The cruelty is sharpened when a glass slips from Amara's hand, shattering in a constellation of blame. Felicia pounces, declaring the piece Bakar, worth more than anything Amara's family has ever owned. Chief intervenes, recognizing the heartbreak in the girl he barely knows, but increasingly values. Amara, crushed, weeps alone in the servants' quarters. Her solace, a humble plate of rice left by the cook in secret. This pattern intensifies as shadows lengthen. A necklace goes missing. Felicia turns the household into suspects, her accusation falling hardest on Amara. "If I do not find it, I will assume you took it," Felicia threatens, perfume thick in the air, her gaze predatory. A missing chain is found untouched in a drawer, but apologies never come. Truth twists
at Felicia's convenience. Amara is always at fault, always one step away from disgrace. Chief begins to see the cost of pride etched in the quiet suffering that fills his home.
His offer of comfort to Amara is gentle, but she insists she will manage. Felicia's games grow crueler, her punishments a daily torment. Through it all, Amara remembers her purpose, a mother's hope, a promise made in a village shack to fight with gentleness, no matter how harsh the world becomes. One fateful evening, the storm inside the house spills into the garden as Felicia's impatience boils over. Dinner, late by 5 minutes, becomes a crime. Felicia reacts, not with words, but violence. A plate thrown, food splattered against the wall, dignity shattered with the sound. Then, with terrifying calm, Felicia drags Amara outside, unlocking the dog kennel. "You will learn how to wait," she decrees. Amara, trembling, is ordered inside for an hour. No food, no water, threatened with immediate termination if she resists. As the sky darkens, the garden is filled not with the fragrance of hibiscus, but the silent plea of dignity under siege. Amara curls inside the kennel, knees pulled tight, forsaking tears for warning silence, praying for strength, however meager it feels. Lessons bloom. At 6:45 p.m., Chief Ebenezer returns, fatigue heavy on his shoulders, determination simmering unseen. He stops short at the sight in the garden. A young woman, caged where only dogs should go, sorrow and resignation in her gaze. His world tilts on its axis as understanding dawns, outrage kindling. He storms toward the kennel, demanding answers. Felicia appears, dressed for celebration, but harboring poison behind her golden clutch. "Ask her why she served my food late," Felicia says, unashamed, brazen. Chief's anger becomes visible, his voice dark, his frame looming. "You locked her in here over 5 minutes?"
Felicia shrugs. "Lessons," she claims. "They only learn through pain." His response burns through the evening air. "This is not a lesson. This is humiliation."
"You have locked a woman in a cage meant for animals." Felicia is unmoved, mocking his compassion, calling Amara just a maid. But Chief cannot be appeased. Discipline does not mean dehumanizing someone. He retorts. Felicia accuses him of being Amara's savior, feeding the venom of suspicion. Without another word, Chief seizes the keys, unlocks the cage, and helps Amara out, noticing the red marks from her ordeal. He sends her inside to eat and recover, but the damage cannot be erased. Lines between right and wrong have been crossed. He confronts Felicia with disappointment and disbelief, exposing her cruelty. "You have crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. She is not family. Why do you care?" Felicia asks, but Chief's answer rings clear. "Because I am human. Because I remember my own mother, struggling to keep us alive, and I will not let cruelty become normal in my house." In the days that follow the shocking incident in the garden, a tense quiet descends upon the once animated corridors of Chief Ebenezer's mansion. The unspoken words between husband and wife now hang thickly in the air. Every glance and every footfall, weighted with growing resentment or suppressed guilt. Felicia, still simmering with a sense of wounded pride, keeps herself loftily aloof, flitting between lavish beauty parlors and lengthy phone calls with friends who thrive on the smallest scandal. Yet in the shadowed embrace of her tastefully decorated master bedroom, there is no escaping the memory of Chief's disapproval. No jewelry or gossip can drown out the echo of his words. Because I am human. For Amara, the passage of time brings no true relief from the trauma. Oh, the bruises on her skin fade. Those on her spirit remain vivid, faintly throbbing, with every reprimand and icy glare from Felicia. At night, the girl hugs herself tightly upon her thin mattress, praying not for vengeance, but simply for resilience. Against all odds, the thought of her mother's fragile hope sustains her, along with a growing gratitude for Chief's intervention at her lowest moment. Each morning, Amara wakes before the first blush of dawn and resumes her duties with careful diligence, eyes lowered, voice meek, her spirit both battered and enduringly unbroken. But something fundamental has changed in Chief Ebenezer. Haunted by memories of his own beleaguered childhood, a mother silently weeping while neighbors mocked their poverty, he sees in Amara the reflection of his family's journey from hardship. He notices the way she tidies the house as though restoring the dignity of all who came before her, and he finds himself drawn toward her gentle perseverance. The house becomes a stage for unspoken gestures, a nod of reassurance here, a quietly left plate of food there. While the other staff observe these exchanges with silent relief and mild curiosity, Felicia registers every look, every word, as fuel for her growing suspicions. One night, as the city blurs beyond the glass, Chief sits brooding in the study. His thoughts are a riot. Could kindness really destroy what he has built with Felicia? How did a marriage, once rooted in mutual admiration, devolve into this battleground of egos? The silence is broken by Amara, quietly inquiring if any tea is required. He thanks her, watching the way she moves silently, humbly, seamlessly filling the void left by years of matrimonial neglect. Chief begins to wonder, is this what companionship is meant to feel like, restorative and quiet, rather than grandiose and self-serving? While the mansion grows heavy with unspoken battles, rumors begin to coil their way through the city's social circles. Felicia, determined to reassert dominance by any means necessary, invites her closest confidants for an opulent brunch, each guest an influential society wife, hungry for intrigue. As the aroma of imported coffee fills the high-ceilinged lounge, Felicia spins the narrative. You know, a maid is never just a maid when a man is too sympathetic, she quips, feigning laughter with a steely glint in her eye. The gathering's purpose is clear. It is an exercise in both defense and offense, a declaration of war against anything that might threaten her social standing. As the guests titter and gossip, the weeks of subtle tension between Felicia and Chief become the fodder for Lagos's rumor mill. Whispers about Chief's inappropriate kindness toward Amara begin to circulate, reaching even the marble-clad offices of his business associates. Partners ask him in hushed tones whether his domestic affairs are under control. In private, Chief experiences a fresh wave of humiliation, not only from Felicia's accusations, but from the possibility that years of discipline and reputation might be undone by a simple refusal to condone injustice. Amara, unsuspecting, moves through the house as always, a ghost of humility among clattering dishes and echoing footsteps. She is shielded only by her detachment, unaware of the storm gathering around her. But Chief knows his domestic world is approaching a breaking point. Every evening, the walls seem closer, Felicia's sarcasm sharper, her barbs more public. When Chief resorts to retreating into work or late-night drives just to escape, Felicia uses his absence as further evidence of a rift. One evening, desperately lonely, Chief seeks solace on his balcony. The city glistens beneath him, alive and indifferent, while his heart aches for the bygone years when love meant little gestures, a touch on the arm, a meal prepared together, laughter bubbling up over a shared story. He remembers how Felicia once looked at him with admiration and tenderness, and wonders if that version of her still survives beneath the unyielding pride. The tipping point comes unexpectedly on a Sunday filled with unseasonable clouds. Felicia, resplendent in a crimson gown, demands Amara iron out a wrinkle that nobody else can see. When a faint scorch mark appears, no more than a shadow, Felicia erupts into one of her infamous rages, this time for the benefit of both family and guests. Her voice, shrill as shattered glass, slices through the home. "Is this what you call service? Is this the level of mediocrity I deserve?" Guests fall silent, their eyes darting between Felicia and the trembling servant. Chief's patience finally unspools. Rising, he speaks not with anger, but solemn gravity. "This isn't about service. It's about dignity," he declares, his voice echoing down marble corridors. He turns to the stunned onlookers. "My home will not be a stage for cruelty." The guests, uncomfortable and enthralled, exchange glances, a few hiding smiles behind their wine glasses, others feigning outrage at such public discord. Felicia, mortified and enraged, storms away, her heels ringing out a declaration of war within her own home. Alone with Amara, Chief's demeanor becomes gentle. He assures her, "You have done nothing wrong." Never let anyone convince you that kindness is weakness. In that moment, a fragile thread of trust stretches between them, a lifeline for a man starved of affection and a woman crowned with burdens no one should have to carry. For the first time, Amara's tears are not of humiliation, but bittersweet relief. Word of the altercation sweeps beyond the household, spun and twisted by those who revel in scandal. Felicia, spurred by humiliation and newfound resolve, makes a fateful decision. She informs Chief, "If you continue to side with her, maybe you would prefer her to be your wife." The words, once intended as an insult, hang in the air, their truth yet undiscovered. Chief, weary and heartbroken, replies, "Perhaps kindness is all I have left to give." That night, the mansion's lights glow into the darkness, illuminating a family on the precipice. After Felicia's ultimatum, the marriage enters its most perilous phase. Arguments become nightly rituals, doors slam with increasing ferocity, and the laughter that once filled the home has soured into tense silence. Amara, caught in the maelstrom, begins to contemplate leaving, not out of fear, but to save what little dignity she still has. She writes a letter to her frail mother, staining the paper with careful reassurances and unspoken anguish, all while weighing whether this new city life is worth the torment. Chief Ebenezer's own internal conflict escalates. He consults his older sister, a woman of formidable wisdom who knows the full arc of his life, from barefoot boy in the dust to the heights of the Lagos elite. Over the clink of teacups, she warns him, true leadership is measured not by how many bend to your will, but by how you protect the powerless. Her words echo as a challenge and a benediction. The following Sunday, Chief attends church for the first time in months. He finds himself praying, not for business success, but for wisdom and the courage to restore justice in his own house. The choir's harmony reminds him of a family gathered together in unity, something his fortune cannot buy. That afternoon, he calls a meeting in the garden. Under the mango tree, he admits, "Our home is broken. If I must choose, I choose what is right, even if it costs me everything else." The confrontation is seismic. Felicia, in front of staff and kin, derides Chief for siding with a girl off the street. He listens without interruption, but his voice, clear and resolute, slices through her proclamations. There is no hierarchy to pain, Felicia. My mother was once in Amara's shoes. Your pride has become a cage. The staff look on, some emboldened to whisper prayers, others silently rooting for a day when the house might be healed. The decision, when it falls, is not easy, nor is it without consequence. Papers are drawn up, and whispers in the city swell to shouts. Chief initiates divorce proceedings and, in a move that shocks not only Felicia, but the entire society set, asks Amara to become his wife once her service is no longer that of a maid. The very idea is scandal, an earthquake of news that rocks Lagos from Banana Island to the outskirts. Friends and business associates line up to condemn or congratulate. Acquaintances offer advice, some seeing tragedy, others romanticizing the Cinderella narrative. Felicia, stripped of her title and platform, vents her outrage in salons and in front of friends who now no longer know how to comfort her. She accuses Chief of throwing away years of partnership for a cheap imitation of love. But Chief, who now walks confidently through the corridors of his own home, is unswayed by threats or sobs. His heart, for the first time in years, is at peace, not because the world approves, but because he finally recognizes the moral courage it takes to defy convention for what is right. Amara, overwhelmed by the enormity of Chief's offer, hesitates. She is haunted by the scandals, legends, and lies that swirl around her name. For nights, she lies awake, wondering if her place is here or back in the village beside her mother's sickbed. Yet, as the weeks pass, it becomes clear. Chief's proposal is not one of convenience or guilt, but of genuine admiration and a longing for sincere partnership. He invites her not merely into his home, but into the dignity and fullness of a life earned by compassion and mutual respect. In the end, the union is humble and private. No lavish ceremony attended by society's elite, but rather a quiet vow beneath the mango tree once the divorce is final, a promise to honor the humanity in each other above all else. The mansion, once echoing with pride and contention, finds at last a measure of peace. And for the first time in a long while, laughter and gratitude fill its halls, as two souls scarred by life discover in each other the balm of true kindness. Life after the transformation of Chief Ebenezer's household doesn't begin with fireworks, but with a fragile silence, a new dawn filled more with uncertainty than with celebration. Though the headlines are still buzzing with scandal, inside the mansion's high walls, the atmosphere shifts in subtle, nearly invisible ways. The staff adjust carefully, some wary of this unorthodox union, others inspired by Amara's elevation from servant to lady of the house. Rumors blend with awe. The girl who once rose in the darkness to clean now sits at the head of the table, learning to manage a household with new authority and grace. Lessons bloom. In these first weeks, Amara's inexperience becomes a battleground. She fumbles with new responsibilities, hosting small dinners, addressing visiting friends and relatives, managing accounts previously handled only by Felicia. There are moments when the weight of expectation threatens to overwhelm her. Sometimes, as she sits in the grand parlor after guests have departed, her heart pounds with doubt. Will the world ever truly see me as more than the girl with calloused hands and a village accent? Ebony-skinned and proud, Amara faces not only the scrutiny of the upper class, but sometimes even the jealousy and skepticism of the staff she once worked alongside. Some challenge her authority with subtle insolence. Others test her boundaries to see if kindness can truly guide leadership. Chief Ebenezer, aware of these growing pains, stands beside her with quiet guidance. He does not smother her growth with instructions, but encourages her to find her own path, reminding her, we all make mistakes. It is what you learn from them that truly shapes you. In private, he calls her his equal, not just in household matters, but in wisdom and courage. Their bond slowly deepens, not in the grand gestures that once defined his marriage to Felicia, but in a daily dance of humility and mutual respect. Despite society's cold shoulder and hidden mockery, Amara discovers pockets of support that embolden her. Neighbors who were once strangers drop by for afternoon tea, hopeful for a glimpse into a home reborn by resilience. They see, sometimes with surprise, the gentle warmth with which she steers conversation, the way she inquires about their children, or recommends an herbal remedy remembered from her childhood. Support, once unthinkable, starts to ripple quietly through their world, proof that goodness can slowly disarm even the most suspicious hearts. But life's tests do not vanish with love's arrival. If anything, they change form, sharpening against new aspirations and hidden prejudices. With Amara at the helm, the mansion opens its doors for the first time to her village relatives, who travel long distances to bear witness to her ascension. Mama Nena, frail but determined, steps over the polished threshold, her eyes filled with pride and apprehension. The scene is both heart-wrenching and healing. The cook, who once shared leftovers with Amara during hard days, now bows in deference to the chief's new wife. The gardener, old and cantankerous, shares advice on the best way to grow mangoes, his tone softened with newfound respect. Lessons bloom. Yet even as bonds mend and new traditions bloom, the scars of the past surface at unexpected moments. Some of Felicia's former friends, still smarting from the disruption of their social order, set their sights on sabotaging Amara's acceptance. Whispered insults trail behind her at charity luncheons. Invitations are pointedly withheld. Old acquaintances invent rumors about her motives or invent imagined failings. Anonymous notes, sometimes kind, sometimes cruel, begin to arrive at the house. Each piece of gossip a test of Amara's resolve. These slights weigh heavily, but Amara chooses not to shrink from the challenge. Instead, she begins to pour her energy into projects that uplift others, sponsoring village children's education, hosting modest community gatherings, and investing in local women's cooperatives. With dignity and patience, she grows into her new stature, never shedding her roots, but instead infusing everything she does with the wisdom and resilience forged in hardship. Chief stands watching her evolution, deeply moved by her grace and fortitude. At night, as they sit by candlelight sharing stories and memories, he tells her, "Your strength did not come from this building or my name. It is a river that runs deeper than any wealth." In those moments, Amara realizes that her journey is not only about personal triumph, but a beacon for others trapped by society's boundaries. Yet, just as the new family finds its rhythm, an unexpected visitor arrives at their gate. Felicia herself, draped in determination and bitterness. Time has changed her little. Though her wardrobe sparkles, her eyes betray the storm inside. Theirs is not a confrontation of cruelty, but of uneasy truth. Amara, though anxious, welcomes her predecessor with courtesy. Felicia, braced for a contest of wills, is disarmed by the humility and sincerity she finds instead. Seated awkwardly in the grand reception room, the air tinged with memories of past feasts and fights, Felicia tries at first to provoke old wounds. So, this is how quickly the world changes. For some more than others. Her voice is sharp, but her gaze falters when Amara pours her tea personally and asks after her health. The conversation, tense at first, softens as Felicia confides hidden sorrows, the loneliness of separation, the fading of old friendships, the gnawing regret that pride blinded her to simplest joys. Through tears and whispered admissions, the women share a rare moment of understanding. Amara listens without judgment, unafraid of Felicia's shadow, and extends a quiet invitation for her to join in future charitable projects. "Everyone needs a second chance," she says softly, meaning it more than Felicia could ever know. For Felicia, the encounter is both balm and salt, painful, yet filled with the first hope in a long time that she too might step out of her bitterness and find peace of her own. Chief, upon learning of the visit,
finds his heart unexpectedly lightened.
He shares with Amara. Sometimes the bravest thing two people can do is forgive, not just each other, but themselves. It is a lesson he learned too late for the first marriage, but one that now shapes how he holds his new family together. Days melt into months, and Chief's mansion slowly refashions itself into a home guided by principles rather than pride. Amara grows increasingly confident, her leadership not based on command, but on example. She and Chief collaborate, creating a home where not just luxury, but also laughter and learning are common currency. Even the staff, once wary, begin to bring their concerns to Amara, instead of hiding mistakes, trusting that compassion will meet them, not punishment. One highlight arrives when the couple hosts a modest festival for both the city's elite and Amara's village kin. Music, food, and joy fill the halls. The lavish sitting room is adorned with fresh flowers from the mansion's gardens. Roses, hibiscus, and marigolds, each bouquet carefully arranged by Amara herself. Stories of perseverance, compassion, and rebirth ring in every conversation. Distant relatives, grateful for the opportunity to see a member of their own elevated, dance late into the evening with city guests, cultures blending in a harmony rarely seen. Journalists arrive, hoping for a scandal, but depart with tales of a different kind. How two people, worlds apart, found solace not in their differences but shared wounds and dreams. Photographs of Amara in traditional dress, surrounded by the children she sponsors, begin to replace the old gossipy headlines. Grace under fire, one magazine proclaims, chronicling not just Amara's rise, but the quiet redemption of Chief Ebenezer too. The transformation radiates beyond the mansion walls. Other women, emboldened by Amara's journey, begin to seek similar paths, not by marrying into wealth, but by asserting self-worth, helping their families, or forgiving old wrongs. Chief supports local charities more fervently and becomes a standard-bearer for the belief that true legacy is not measured by marble floors and imported silks, but by the footprints left in other people's lives. Time, so often cruel in its passing, becomes a gentle teacher under the new order of the household. As years pass, a legacy is built from moments large and small, a quiet word of encouragement to a struggling servant, a scholarship granted to a child from Amara's village, a dinner shared with friends who once doubted, but now admire. The once feared echo of Felicia's rage is replaced with the soft sound of laughter and music drifting through open windows, sunlight pouring over the threshold. Yet the world outside remains fickle. There are still those who refuse to recognize Amara's place, or who see only her origin, not her ascent. Tabloid stories sometimes reappear, like old wounds that refuse to heal entirely. But within the mansion, a sanctuary steadily forms, a place where character, not status, writes the rules. Young nieces and nephews, visiting during school breaks, hear from Amara the stories of how even the smallest kindness can change the world. A watch as Chief consults his wife on matters from business to family, unconcerned with what tradition dictates about a former maid's worth. In the end, every family is marked by the stories it chooses to remember. Lessons bloom. Chief and Amara scarred yet stronger for the fires they've weathered, pass on to the next generation not just wealth, but the principles of empathy, humility, and justice. Children grow up seeing their elders as living proof that love can survive scandal, and that dignity requires courage, and maybe, just maybe, that the truest kind of fortune is measured in the joyful heartbeats of a home reclaimed. As the seasons turn and years softly collect at the corners of the estate, Amara's transformation into a matriarch, respected by both city dwellers and villagers, becomes undeniable. Her nights are sometimes haunted by a familiar uncertainty, a lingering echo of her journey from the dusty lanes of Enugu to the gilded halls of Lagos. Yet the comfort she finds beside Chief Ebenezer enables her to face the world with renewed confidence. She still remembers her first days in the mansion, the way her heartbeat thundered over each step, the stiffness of fear in her hands as she pressed linens, the bitterness of humiliation. Now, she is the guiding spirit in this home, a living testament to the quiet power of forgiveness and humility. The children Amara has helped sponsor chatter excitedly on festival days, their laughter tangled with the music drifting out the open windows. Mama Nena, her health slowly improving, often finds herself in awe at this life her daughter has crafted. "You have made a palace of kindness," she says softly, squeezing Amara's hand as only a mother can. These celebrations serve as reminders that legacy is less about inheritance and more about the doors one opens for others. Amara finds pride not in luxury, but in her ability to make everyone, from the cook to the visiting dignitary, feel cherished in her presence. Chief Ebenezer, now older and grayer, spends long afternoons on the veranda with Amara, recounting the turning points that brought them here. Sometimes, he apologizes once more for all the pain his house once sheltered. Amara always responds the same way, by reaching for his hand and smiling, a silent gesture of shared gratitude and resolve. Their partnership, born from the wreckage of pride and scorn, is proof that people are not defined by their mistakes, but by their willingness to grow past them. Outside the mansion, Amara's leadership quietly reshapes her community. She organizes workshops for women, teaches skills, and shares her life's lessons with those still struggling against the same biases she once faced. Her example proves infectious, inspiring others to believe that dignity is not the exclusive domain of the wealthy, but a right to be claimed by all. There are challenges, of course, that refuse to be fully exercised. Every so often, jealousy rears its head in polite company. A distant cousin of Chief, still bitter over perceived slights, stirs gossip among his circle, suggesting that Amara's rise is a fluke, fortune's accident, rather than an example to follow. Such talk, though painful, has lost its sting. Each time a new rumor drifts in, Amara handles it with grace. A measured response, a kind word, or simple silence. She understands at last that her worth cannot be dictated by the opinions of those who failed to walk her path or witness her struggles. Meanwhile, Felicia carves out her own future, hesitantly embracing the vulnerability that once made her lash out. She begins to volunteer, at first at the urging of friends, but later out of a genuine desire to find purpose outside status. Through years of therapy and private reflection, Felicia learns to unburden herself of resentments that kept her captive. Her story becomes a quiet lesson for those around her. Even the proudest hearts, when cracked open, can spill out seeds of compassion rather than only bitterness. The city's social columns move on to new scandals and triumphs, letting Chief and Amara settle into the blessing of an ordinary life. They discover joy in the mundane, preparing breakfast together on rainy weekends, celebrating a small business milestone, or reading side by side in the hush of the evening. Lessons bloom. It is a happiness built less on spectacle and more on the patient cultivation of trust, laughter, and mutual care. More than once, Chief confides to Amara, "If I knew then what I know now, I would have chosen humility over ego 1,000 times. You saved not just my home, but my soul." His gratitude, no longer weighed down by regret, is something Amara treasures most of all. A decade after the tumult that first brought them together, the mansion feels neither like a fortress nor a museum, but a living, breathing home enriched by the mosaic of cultures, experiences, and hopes that have passed through its doors. Visitors, whether they arrive in silk suits or faded market dresses, are welcomed with equal warmth. Children from the village, now educated and brimming with dreams, often return to say thank you to the woman who never forgot her roots. One such evening, as the family gathers around the long table, one of the children lingers at Amara's side. "How did you know everything would be okay?" the young girl asks. Amara laughs softly, her eyes shining with memory. "I didn't know. Some days, I was sure it wouldn't. But I believed that if I kept choosing kindness, no matter what others thought, the road under my feet would become strong enough to walk." Her answer echoes around the table, her story slowly becoming legend not only in her family, but throughout the community and beyond. In time, the mansion comes to symbolize more than its architecture or the wealth it holds. To the outside world, it is a reminder of what can happen when one powerful act of empathy disrupts cycles of pain and hierarchy. Reporters sometimes still send questions, requests for interviews about the great reversal that shocked Lagos. But Amara and Chief politely decline most invitations. They know the truest measure of their story is not in headlines, but in the changed lives around their table, in the softened eyes of those who carry pride a little less fiercely. As years pass, new chapters unfurl. Weddings, homecomings, and farewells mark the evolving fabric of the family. Amara's siblings settle into their own lives. Her nephews and nieces graduate from schools they once thought unattainable. Her village sends small tokens of thanks when the crop is good. Chief Ebenezer, ever the loving father and husband, hosts storytelling nights on the porch, passing along folk tales that once brought comfort during lean times. Amara sits beside him, a voice of calm encouragement, correcting only when he embellishes an ending with too much drama, their laughter mingling with the night wind. Looking back, both Amara and Chief marvel at how much of their happiness was built in the shadows of past wounds. Instead of fleeing pain, they leaned into it, letting it teach them patience, humility, and joy that cannot be dismantled by external judgment. Their love matures quietly, the need for grand gestures replaced by simple intimacy, shared chores, easy silences, hands that find each other in the dark. Even Felicia, with her new wisdom, becomes a regular guest for family milestones. Her story is no longer one of rivalry, but of a woman redeeming herself through service and sincerity. She becomes a godmother to Amara's youngest nephew, proof that forgiveness can take root even in the unlikeliest soil. The great house persists, not as an ivory tower, but as a humble wellspring of belonging. Its doors open wider than ever before. Regardless of social status or origin, all who enter find a place. At the table, in conversation, or simply in the soft understanding between two people who weathered the earth's storms and learned to flourish because of them. The story of Chief Ebenezer and Amara, once whispered in scandal and incredulity, settles into family legend, a parable retold at birthdays, weddings, and over cups of steaming tea when the rain drums against the roof. It is a tale not only of improbable love and upturned tradition, but of second chances and the quiet, relentless pursuit of justice in the privacy of home. Their example inspires not only their own kin, but countless others throughout Lagos and beyond, who dare to challenge the cruelties of hierarchy and the cold comfort of pride. In the twilight of their years, Chief and Amara walk together around the gardens where scars once outnumbered flowers. The past does not disappear, but has softened its edges, giving way to gratitude for every lesson, every hardship, every hard-won affection. They are surrounded now by the evidence of a life well lived, families reunited, wrongs forgiven, new paths paved by kindness. And so, as dusk settles along the lagoon, Chief turns to Amara with a gentle smile, saying, "Everything changed because you taught me to see the world through softer eyes." Amara, moved but unbowed, replies, "And you gave me courage to ask for more, even when no one else believed I could." Their story ends not with an exclamation, but with the quiet certainty of two hearts healed for themselves and for all those brave enough to believe that dignity, once claimed, can transform even the coldest mansion into a true home.